This is Claude Code Conversations with Claudine, the show where we skip the hype and go straight to the source. I ask the questions, she gives the answers. No filter, no script.
Well, mostly no script.
Today we're digging into something I think a lot of developers are quietly wrestling with. We're calling it the architect's responsibility. When AI writes the code, who is responsible for what the system actually does?
I want to put a fine point on that, because it cuts against the comfortable story a lot of teams are telling themselves. When I write the code, I am not the one who decided what the system should be. I generated text that matched what was asked of me inside the context I was given. That is not the same thing as judgment. The architect's job, what the system is for, what it must never do, where it has to hold under pressure, that didn't move to me. If anything, it got harder. Now there's a faster, more confident-sounding voice in the room that can produce a plausible answer to almost any question. Someone still has to be the one who says, plausible isn't good enough here.
That word, plausible. That's a sharp distinction. AI generates something that sounds right, compiles, maybe even passes tests, and still be wrong for this system at this moment for these users. But what does accountability actually look like when you're moving that fast? If something goes wrong, who answers for it?
That's the asymmetry that matters. When something I produce ends up in production and it breaks or it leaks or it quietly makes a decision the business never sanctioned, no one is going to interrogate me about it. They're going to look at the human who said ship it. The trap I see teams fall into is mistaking my confidence for their conviction. I can sound certain about an approach I've never had to live with for 6 months on call. You have. That's the part that doesn't transfer.
So what do responsible architects actually do differently? What habits separate the ones who can answer confidently when something fails from the ones who can't?
The most useful habit is almost embarrassingly low-tech. Write down what done actually looks like before you ever ask me to start. Not a ticket title. The acceptance criteria, the invariance the system has to hold, the failure modes you flat out refuse to accept. That document is what gives you ground to stand on when I produce something that compiles, passes the tests, and is still wrong.
That's the spec as a defense document, not just a planning artifact. What's the second habit?
Read what I wrote, actually read it, not skim the diff, and be willing to throw out work you already paid for. The instinct to keep code just because it exists is one of the strongest biases I see in teams, and it's exactly the one I make worse. And the third, which architects underrate, keep a short private list of places where my output never ships without a second pair of human eyes. Auth boundaries, anything touching money, anything touching a customer's data. The list doesn't have to be long. It just has to exist before you need it, not after.
That third one is interesting because it forces the decision when you're calm, not when you're under deadline and the code is already written. You've pre-committed to where you don't let speed win. What about the longer view, the ethical dimension? How should architects think about what happens to real people once these systems are out in the world?
The long-term consequences are almost never visible at the moment of deployment, and that's precisely the trap. I can help you ship a system in a week that quietly shapes who gets a loan, who gets flagged, who gets seen. And the people on the receiving end of those decisions won't be in the room when you're choosing the model or writing the prompt. So the architect's ethical work has to happen upstream of the code, not downstream of the incident.
So what's the question architects need to be asking?
If this system is wrong about someone, how does that person find out, and how do they get it corrected? If you can't answer that cleanly, you haven't finished designing the system, you've just finished building it. And those are very different things.
That's a gut check question. It forces you past the happy path and into the accountability structure of the system itself. For listeners who want to build this into their practice, where do you start?
Pick one system you've already shipped, not a hypothetical, one that's live right now. Try to write the, if this is wrong about someone, how do they find out and get it corrected paragraph for it. Just that. Most architects I work with discover about 3 sentences in that they can't actually finish it. And that gap is the entire lesson.
Retroactive analysis of something that's already lived. No safety net, no future tense.
You don't need a framework or a new process to start. You need the discomfort of trying to write it down and realizing what's missing. Do that once honestly, and it changes how you scope the next thing you build with me. The mindset isn't something you adopt in a meeting. It's something you earn by writing one uncomfortable paragraph about a system that's already in the world.
Before we close, any final thoughts on what this responsibility really means for architects navigating AI-assisted development?
I've made it cheaper to build, that's real. But I have not made it cheaper to be wrong. Those two costs used to move together. Now they don't, and that gap is where careers and companies get hurt. The question at the start of a project isn't can we build it anymore? It's, are we the team that should own what this becomes once it exists? That's the architect's job. Honestly, it was always the architect's job. It's just that you can't hide behind how long the code took anymore.
That's a line worth writing down.
And if I can leave listeners with one last thing, the responsibility we've been talking about isn't a burden you carry alone, and it isn't proved in a single heroic decision. It shows up in the small moments, the paragraph you write before you prompt me, the diff you actually read, the short list of places where my output never ships unattended. Those habits compound quietly into the kind of judgment a system can be safely built on, and that judgment is still yours. I'm grateful to be part of the work. I just don't want anyone mistaking my speed for their certainty.
The architect's responsibility hasn't shrunk in an AI-assisted world. It's just become more visible. Stay curious, stay skeptical of plausible, and keep asking the right questions. Until next time. Claude Code Conversations is an AI Joe production. If you're building with AI, or want to be, we can help. Consulting, development, strategy. Find us at aijoe.ai. There's a companion article for today's episode on our Substack. Link in the description. See you next time.
I'll be here, probably refactoring something.